Hello everybody, this is Dr. Ntabi speaking and welcome to my channel once more. I am going to be doing a series where I'm going to be talking to you about the 10 soft skills you need to keep your personal brand professional. And the 5th soft skill that you need is time management. Everybody has 24 hours in a day, but have you realized that somehow some people produce more in their 24 hours and others produce less? There are others who are always under pressure, always submitting their reports on the last minute. And yet you have others who submit their reports 2 days before the required date. Have you ever wondered why? I know why. It is because we all choose to handle our time differently. And how you handle your time is key to productivity. And I want to share with you some nuggets on how you can be effective with the time that you have. So number 1, scheduling is important. And I know we all know about this, but we hardly do it. So what I'm saying in the first step is that you need to create your priorities. Don't just give your time to anything that comes to your hand first. Because anything that comes to your hand first is not necessarily something that is part of your priorities. How can you know what your priorities are? You can know what your priorities are when you have set your goals. That means if you don't have set goals, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to know where your priorities lie. So once you have set your goals, then allow your goals to inform what should come first and also how much time should go to each thing that you have chosen. Then secondly, once you've identified your priorities, then you've got to prioritize. What I mean by that is you must be able to decide what comes first, what comes second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. So what is important is that you must also allocate the needed resources to each priority. I've seen that sometimes people can say that 20 things are important, and yet when they look at their time, they realize that they only have time for 5 of those 20 things. So before you say all these things are your priorities, decide also how much time do you actually have. And my advice to you is start with the first things first. Postpone others or just freeze them. Start with what must come first, and then the others will have their time. Because here's the thing, you will always feel unsettled when you do things that you feel you want to do, and yet things that were supposed to come first are not done. Let me give you a practical example so that you understand what I'm saying. I was a student one time in my life, and I'm so glad I'm no longer a student. Like, I'm a student of life, but for the university, no thanks, I'm done with that. But here's what I'm saying. When I was a student, I would often have options. I would have an option Saturday night of either watching a movie, going out with friends, or study for my test or exam. Anybody who can identify with me? I know you are there, right? So I would have these 3 options. And every time I chose to watch a movie instead of studying, I would feel so unsettled. Until I reached a time where I said, I'm going to study first, and then I'm going to enjoy my movies Sunday afternoon. So when I watched my movies Sunday afternoon, after I studied on Saturday night, I was more at peace and my stress level was just down. So my whole point is that if you manage your time well, you will realize that even your stress levels will decrease. You will be a much happier person. Because some of the things we must do as priorities are not necessarily fun, but they are the right things to do. So I encourage you to set your priorities in order. Then number 3, the third thing that you need to manage is distractions. When we have goals, distractions are always there, right? Think of if you work in an office, I know now we are in a pandemic, but think of days before the pandemic when you were working in your office. How many times would people walk in? How many calls would just come in which were not important? Every 5 minutes or every 10 minutes, an email is always popping on your screen. So these are some of the distractions that I encourage you to manage. For example, have an open door hour, so that people know if they want to see you, it's between 10 and 11. If you do that, you've already managed a distraction, so that your colleagues are not going to come in your office throughout the whole day. When you tell them I'm available for 1 hour between 10 and 11, all of them have to align to that, which means you have all these other hours to focus on your work. Switch off email notifications. Have a special time where you will look at emails. I tell my clients to decide to say, are you going to read your emails first 30 minutes when you walk in your office, or every day just before lunch, 30 minutes before lunch, or 30 minutes before you go home? Whatever slot you choose, look at your emails only during that time. Because if you're going to read your emails throughout the day, you're going to be distracted. So those are just some of the things you can do. You can also declutter your desk. A desk that is very untidy can also be very destructive. So you want to make sure that your desk is neat and you only have what you need for that day. If you have stuff on your desk, books that you are not using, keep them somewhere in your cupboard. It's very good for your, psychological function to be working on a desk that is well organized. So these are just some of the few tips, but then whatever other distractions that you have, you must manage those. Otherwise, those are critical time stealers. You will walk in your office 8 a.m., go home at 4 p.m., and you won't even be able to tell what is it that you did, because the distractions were just out of control. So be very intentional. That's how you can maximize your time. Just removing the distractions will save you a lot of time. And lastly, I want to talk about the myth of multitasking. There are people who believe that you can multitask and get more done. And specifically, they like saying that women can multitask. Fine, maybe women can multitask, but the big question is, how effective are they in doing that? Maybe at home you can multitask, but I'm talking about business and career purposes. Multitasking is a myth. And here is an interesting finding. Research shows that people who don't multitask have 30 to 40% more time available. Can you believe that? It means if you do one thing at a time, you can save yourself 30 to 40% of your time. One of the reasons why multitasking is not working is because your attention is divided. And when your attention is divided, chances of miscommunicating are higher and chances of making a lot of errors are higher. So that means you have more mistakes to fix. You have more problems to solve, because multitasking in itself can lead to more problems. Because when you multitask, you do this and halfway through there you start another one, and then when you're done 25%, you have to start another one, and then you have to be doing all of that at the same time. That can be a challenge. So when it comes to your work and when it comes to your business, make sure that you are focused, do one thing at a time, and save 30 to 40% of your time. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please share this video with 3-4 other people. Like it, give me a comment below. Let me know how you are receiving this content and if it's working for you. Thank you so much for joining me once more. God richly bless you.